What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. As always, I'm here with my co-host, Mr. David Fuchs, coming to us live from Jersey City, New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
So, CFP is upon us. July exam is really kind of spitting distance away. Um, my groups are kind of starting to go into review mode. Um, and I always find the last month and specifically the last week of studying to be kind of the most interesting part of study. And this is where it gets really real. Like really, really real. Like, all right, now I'm taking this thing. Like it goes from the theoretical to okay, like, oh crap, I'm gonna take this thing in like a month or 5 weeks, and you can kind of when you're on Google Calendar and you flip your calendar and then you see it like marked on your calendar, where you used to have to flip like 6 times to get there.
Yeah, and the last month, I would say even like honestly, the last like month and a half, just I'm just remembering when I took it, goes by so fast. Like
Yeah.
you start out, you're like 3 months, 4 months, you're like, all right, I got a long time. And then all of a sudden you get to like 6 weeks out and it goes by because you still think you have a decent amount of time, but it goes by so fast. It comes up very quickly.
I agree. I think that those last couple weeks, and like I remember when I was studying for CFA, they had a counter. So when you log into like your candidate resources on the CFA website, it was a counter. And like there was something about it clicking from like 60 when there's a six in front of the number to a five, and you're like, oh no, like I'm less
Mm.
than 2 months out because
Yeah.
then it would be in the 40s, and then you knew like once it was in the 40s, and you clicked with a 30, you're like, oh crap. Oh crap. Like this is gonna be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and it's kind of when everybody goes into go mode.
Hmm.
And like one of the things that I always tell people, and I told you this, I was like, and I've seen a lot of people do this, and I never really understood the logic behind it. Is there's a lot of people that'll be like, I took the week off before the exam to study. I'm like, well, wow. Like when I took CFP, the only days I took off was I took the exam on a Friday, on a Saturday because it was still the 2 day. And I took off Wednesday,
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
maybe. I think I took
Just to rest up though, not to
Friday.
study probably, right?
Yeah, like I took Wednesday, but like because I was pretty much done. Like my thing is I never study the day before a test.
Right.
I'm relaxing the day before a test. So like by Wednesday night, I went through my normal routine that I did, and then like on Wednesday night I was pretty much done. And like I remember I was doing a couple of practice questions, and I was like getting every single one wrong. That I was like cursing out Kenzan. I'm like, "Ah, F you, Kenzan." I just like, all right, it's probably time to stop studying at that point. And I actually really I didn't study pretty much from like Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And then we took the exam on Friday morning at like 10 or something like that. I think it was like mid morning, late morning, something like that. So I had a full 36-hour window where I didn't do anything. And I remember walking into the exam and people are flipping through flashcards and they're going crazy. And I literally walk in, I have my headphones in. They're not even playing music. I just didn't want anybody to talk to me. I was just like kind of just wanted to be in the zone, but I had headphones in, and they're the ones that you're wearing, like the with the
Yeah, the wire. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I had and it was tucked into my iPod, not an iPhone, an iPod. And I remember like walking in, and I'm like, and everybody's there, and I just sat there and I kind of like closed my eyes, just waited until they called us in. We just had to wait around. I remember people crazy, like flipping through the notes. CFA, same thing. Level one, I remember people online. We were lined up. It's December, and we're standing outside a Hammerstein ballroom, and people are flipping through. And I'm like, this is like kind of the attitude that a lot of people get into is that last minute attitude. And, you know, what do you end up doing that last week is really a reflection of your entire studies. And I think, now I want to hear what you have to say. I think your last week, and I know you say this all the time, you should be coming down, not going up. It's not the time for that. It's if you are taking an exam on Friday and on Monday, you're still studying till 2 o'clock in the morning. No bueno. You should be
Yeah, I
coming
mean,
down.
yeah, I mean, people that's the norm. I would say most people do that. It works for some people. It absolutely works for some people. But if you want to kind of do it in a way where it's not as stressful and you're not killing yourself, the way that you kind of trained me and my crew and the people that everyone that comes through NISM tutoring, um, the way you do it is that last week is a very, very, it's a relaxing week. It's a down week. You're not up till 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, you're not up till 2 o'clock in the morning any time, but you're not doing a 10-hour day. You're kind of taking it easy. And the reason is, and I remember you, because I used to cram too, like when I was in college, like the day before the exam, I would pop a signature NISM tutoring Adderall and be up the entire night studying and cramming shit in. And that's just how I used to do it. And it wasn't until I really started working with you that I completely changed the narrative, where it was like that last week, couple days before, maybe a week before, take it easy. You've been killing yourself for 3 months. You don't want to burn yourself out right before you cross the finish line at the marathon. And
I
that
agree.
was a big lesson that I learned. And I think that that's something that, I would love to go back. And this is why we're doing this, is for anyone that's starting to take it or that's taking it now. That's something that you should definitely know before, is how to handle that last week, because it's very key.
Yeah, I was chatting with a client that I haven't worked with him in 2 years, and he was a client that came in for FINRA exams, and he needed the FINRA exams in order to get promoted at work. And he got the promotion. It's a really big job. He's doing incredibly, incredibly well for himself. Had to move cross country for the job. And he said to me, you said to me at some point, there's no such thing as a good test taker and a bad test taker. There's just prepared and unprepared. And to that end, the last week is the culmination. It's like, and if you think about it in the context of anything else, if you're going and running for a marathon, you should be doing some light runs, but you shouldn't be going out and trying to run 20 miles 2 days before the race.
Right.
If you're playing a basketball game, you don't go basketball game intensity the day of the game or 2 days before the game. You're not doing that. Like
Mm.
when I played football in high school, I know you played football in high school.
No, I did not play football. I would have gotten my ass kicked.
I,
Hell fucking no.
but like,
In the backyard, yeah.
right, like we would go hard in practice on Monday and Tuesday, and Wednesday it was like, but Thursday we were in uppers, right? It was half speed
Right.
to get ready for the game. And we
Yeah.
kind of know this, like realistically with everything else, we just don't do it here. To me, that week is about light practice quizzes, flashcards, and rereading topics. And it's just a
Mm.
matter of repetition. And your flashcards
Right.
are, I'll go estate planning, and then I'll do some tax, and then I'll mix it together. And I'll do some GPP, and I'll do some investment, and then I'm mixing things together. That way, I'm kind of getting myself ready, but it's going at half speed. And I think about that last week at half speed because there's a lot of things that I want to do. And the last thing that I want to do in that last week is break my confidence.
Right. And that's such a good point, because it's not just don't do too many mock exams or take too many quizzes or go too hard because you don't want to burn yourself out. And that is certainly a huge reason why. But that is also a huge reason why as well, is you don't want to fuck with your confidence too much, because confidence on this exam is huge. And you don't want to think you know something and then go do a quiz or mess up on a mock exam or whatever. And then now all of a sudden you think you don't know it. And that plays with your head as you're going into the exam.
Yeah,
And
I can't tell you the number of people who have come in who have actually been ready to take the exam and pass it and end up screwing it up in their last week because they do too much.
right.
And that's the last thing you would expect to hear from somebody like me is, my job is to push you to study, 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 study.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, study, 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 study as much as you can, always on. That's not what that means. There's a precise plan of action that you're following. And that plan of action is not like you're going this much. It's like anything else. There's going to be days where there's more effort and days where there's less effort, and days where more effort and days with less effort. And that combination is what's going to lead you to the promised land where I just know like people, they would end up getting so deep in their head because they're like, oh my God, I don't know state and I don't know tax. And it's like when you're studying and preparing, you may be in the same exact position, but because you have a plan of action, you're like, you know what, I'm conceding on this, I'm conceding on this. That's okay.
Right.
But I'm gonna do my best here. And now I'm gonna go rest. So I'm not walking into the exam with jitters.
Right. Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
and there's a lot of people I know that psych themselves out. So, that last week, the name of the game is not cramming. It's less is more. And what you're doing is at half speed. So on game day, you're ready.
Yeah. You put the work in for 3 months. You've it's been a process. You've been grinding, it's been a grueling process. And now's the time to let your body rest before you start running that marathon.
Exactly. And if it hasn't been that process, then maybe you should reconsider taking the exam.
That's exactly what I was about to say. If you don't feel like you need to take a little bit of a break that last week, you may not be ready.
Yeah. Well, I would gather to say with 90% certainty you're not ready.
Okay.
So this is what you should be focusing on the last week. As
Yep.
always, you guys have any questions, concerns, DM David, DM myself. We are always happy to help and chat about these things because keeping that confidence and having that going into the exam is just as important as that academic knowledge. All right, guys, have a great week and we will chat with you soon.